Obliterated on Netflix is the most outrageous, raunchy, bold, smash hit comedy of 2006. The problem, of course, it was released in 2023. The show definitely takes powerful strides for shock humor, and in the words of my friend Cobra Kyle, it comes off as neither shocking nor humorous. You know, we've had shocking stuff from Game of Thrones and other similar shows. HBO blazed a trail and Netflix was never far behind. And somewhere along the way, everyone just said, screw it, let's play a massive game of one-upmanship and see how far we can go to be more gratuitous and more shocking with both the nudity as well as the gross and disgusting. So welcome back to an Obliterated Watch Party. I'm gonna take you through the best and worst of Obliterated's shock scenes. If you weren't keeping track, every episode has some sort of nudity or sex scene or something for shock value. There's a clear intention they were going to have something in each episode. It's defining the show's brand, so to speak. And so we might as well start where we began, that is Maya's whipped cream bikini. This is directly inspired by Ali Larter's famous scene in Varsity Blues. Now it works as a shock moment because I didn't know the reference and was unprepared for such attire. It also works for humor because the meaning of the scene is very different from the original. Maya struts in on the aftermath of Chad and Ava's botched sexual adventure. She feels betrayed by Ava, so there's yelling and confusion. The comedy is realistic as a cherry falls off, which of course it would. Whipped cream isn't exactly solid. That tension and shouting definitely downplays any sexual tension there may have been. But because of the out-of-place I love you and post-sex awkwardness that just preceded it, the audience is already at that level. You're almost a little surprised it didn't make a pop the cherry joke, but I guess it didn't fit in. Now I realize every person has their own taste, so there's no need to compare this to the original, but I mean, there you go. I was also a little curious if she put whipped cream on the back. I mean, if you're doing it as a bikini, theoretically you would complete the bikini, right? Don't do a half-ass job. I mean, I guess it's an all-ass job, or at least a butt-crack job, but not a no-ass job. In the original, she sits on the couch, so I don't think she did the back. We don't know about Maya, but I'm guessing it's hard to get a whipped cream can at just the right angle, so she just let it go. A no-ass job it was. Fair enough. Episode 2 climaxes at the male strip club. There's really nothing shocking in this scene. I did think the comedy was a little flat. The stripper goes to the back room with Maya and keeps teasing and hinting that she would want to see his penis, like he has some large dick or whatever. And then it just turns out it's an average sized penis, nothing special. And I guess that's the joke. This humor doesn't really connect. The joke is really flaccid, and frankly, I didn't need to see his penis. Now, some of the most crude attempts at shock value were in episode 3. They're pretty straightforward. A passed out Haggerty shits his pants. That's unfortunate. Maya has to wash him off in the freaking fountain of all things and get him some new pants. This is a good example of just shock value. It's one thing to have Maya and Lana freaking out over Haggerty's farts and shits. That is relatable, or at least relatable to me. But do we really need to see them washing his butt? Like, are there people out there where like this show was pretty solid, but when they showed that guy's ass covered in shit and they were trying to wash it, like, damn, that just take it to the next level. Right into the stratosphere. Well, not for me. I don't watch TV or movies because I'm looking for more shitty asses. I guess I'm just glad it was a relatively quick shot. Episode 4 has some good moments that is worth mentioning, where Angela uses the gift she received earlier as a light for Maya in the pit. Now granted, the most tame object, but they aren't quite a shock value level. I mean, I think it had more shock in Parenthood back in the 80s.
It was kind of big.
It sure was.
I do just like the way it's all set up in episode 1 and then pays off in episode 4. Episode 4 also had the scene where Lana went topless to trick the guard into opening the door. How very clever. If you were to judge nudity based on how much it makes sense in the context of the story, I would say this one is probably the best. Lana hatches a plan, knows the weakness of the man she's targeting, this guard specifically. It works. Unfortunately, scenes like this are more the exception than the rule. Haggerty wakes up, finds the love of his life, and gets right to work having sex. It's rather graphic. You actually identify with the kid or his dad, and what the heck are these two doing? You know there's something about this scene in how Obliterated approaches all sex scenes. Yes, the two characters are going at it. He is getting her from behind, but really nothing about the scene in itself is sex. Like normally a sex scene is you, the viewer, feel some of that sex bravado that the characters do. It wakens you up, so to speak. That's definitely not the case here. They're having sex, but it's not sexy. In fact, there's another ass shot or Haggerty in there. We really need to see him all that? No. You just relate with the father even more. There's not a whole lot of shock stuff in the last two episodes. Maya has her dream sex scene with Chad, and of course the very end has Chad and Ava having sex again. This time they go until the champagne cork pops off, so to speak. These are definitely lesser, as at this point the show is racing to the conclusion, so there's less time or need for that shock value. Now we need to go full circle back to Haggerty's full frontal in the first episode, as well as Trunk's torture scene. Now we never used to see such blatant male nudity in movies and shows. Indeed, back in the 80s, the era which inspired the creators, every teen movie pretty much had an obligatory boob shot from one of the girls. This led to a lot of hemming and hawing, as well as pearl clutching that began in the academic world about the excess female nudity in movies. They called it the male gaze. Basically, shots would linger on women. If anyone was naked, it would be the young, attractive girls, and so on. It was the visual point of view of a man. In the modern era, this is more considered outrageous, so in a drive for equality, there's a concentrated effort to have less naked women on screen, or to at least have more naked men on screen. It's equal, you see. I think some of that thinking is with the creators. Plus, they come from an ironic humor background. Like growing up watching all these nude scenes with women, they probably wondered, why are there never naked guys? They think it's funny and fun to have the naked men. Like, watch this clip talking about when Seaman Thomas Howell decided he wanted to go full frontal for his scene.
That's great news. This is amazing. Pony Boy's gonna go, full frontal on our show. Okay, here
that
we
qualifies
go.
as great news.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, look at how thrilled they are. Josh can't contain himself. Hayden and John high-fived. I guess we should be thankful it was their hands they clapped. That said, I tend to think while some people share their enthusiasm for such naked displays of male anatomy, I do think it's the minority. It's certainly not me. It breaks down like this. Naked women, okay with men, okay with women. Naked man, not so big with the men, nothing special for the women. Plus, the fact that Game of Thrones with its extremely sensual nude scenes was so popular with women shows this. That's not to say they didn't complain, some did, which actually led to all this. Men are way more visual in terms of sexuality. That's why the male gaze exists in the first place. Male directors are just thinking about what is visually exciting to them. Even when it's a woman director, not nearly as much. Which isn't to say the female gaze doesn't exist. Oscar-winning movie The Piano had its moments. However, it's just not as big a thing for them. Okay, people, that was all a really long way of saying I don't need dicks. I don't want to see them. It doesn't make me love the show more or recommend the show to other people. It's kind of like, yeah, I'd rather not. You see shocking stuff on social media every day. We've gotten to the point where it's hard to be shocking. Reality is shocking enough. So yes, the dick torture scene was something I hadn't seen before, so congratulations on that. But other than the important aspect of representation, it was nothing I enjoyed seeing. The shock and gruesome mean nothing to me. Now, I wouldn't suggest the show change its tune in any future season, but I do think a constant desire to top whatever was done before could ultimately work against the show. Is season 2 supposed to be more shocking and more gruesome than what we just had? And then season 3 would be more still? I don't know, but that's the one thing I'm not looking forward to seeing. Have a great day. I'll see you at the next watch party.